Welcome to my channel, where there are interesting and equally sensational stories. Listen to today's story. Divorcing my cheating wife after she blew up her second chance. 14-year marriage ending. My wife of 13 years had a deep emotional affair. Our marriage wasn't the best, and I understand her feeling of not feeling much affection for me. Long story short, she left to work in another state for 5 months. While she was gone, we agreed that when she returned, we would go to marriage counseling. However, in the months leading up to her return, she became involved with a coworker. I discovered heavy flirting through text messaging, and over time, she has revealed more and more about the affair. She lied to me when I first asked her about it, and she has lied several more times since me finding out. She says she's taking responsibility for it and is remorseful, but she gets angry whenever I ask more details or get depressed about it. She has since quit texting on her phone and only uses Facebook Messenger and Instagram to communicate with people and deletes every message immediately after it is sent or received. I immediately have been taking extreme steps to try and keep tabs on what she is doing and communicating with, and she says that the behavior is driving her away. I try to explain that if she was more open, I wouldn't feel the need to do these things. She tells her friends and therapists that it's to control her. And she says she has a piece of human right to privacy. I agree with privacy unless you are trying to save a marriage after an affair. I feel like she is doing all the opposite things she should be doing. She's dismissive and irritable when asked questions about the affair. She blames the affair on the marriage. She says things like, "It was only an emotional affair." She has apologized, and at the times, it felt sincere, but then it feels undermined later on. I also feel like she is gaslighting me by telling me that my reactions aren't normal and my obsessive behaviors aren't normal, and the problem is me and I need to get help to stop obsessing so much. But everything I read says these behaviors are normal and that the other person should have empathy towards these feelings. Am I crazy for wanting to make this work? I really love my wife, and I was really excited to repair our marriage before the affair happened. Now I feel like I'm alone to fix it, and I have to just accept the affair and accept that I will actually have less transparency than I have had at any point in our marriage. A couple quick reactions before we move on to the update. Beb252 says she's still deep in her affair fog. She's definitely still in the affair. She just doesn't want to admit it. You can't repair a marriage when you're the only one participating. She's the one cheating. She should give her full cooperation, but she's moving further away. You should consult a lawyer now. Our other comments coming from, first of all, how dare we? You cannot reconcile unless neither party wants it. She is clearly not wanting to reconcile. She also needs to learn the difference between privacy and secrecy. However, it is pretty much standard that after an affair of any kind that the betrayed spouse gets full access to all devices, including passwords to all social media in order to reconcile. It's basically the wayward spouse's way of showing they are no longer doing anything that they shouldn't be doing. She isn't acting like a spouse who wants to reconcile. She isn't acting remorseful at all. Reconciliation will never work with her having the attitude she has, and she absolutely should not be saying it's just an emotional affair. You are feeling normal feelings post-betrayal and not asking for anything that is abnormal after infidelity. Update. Well, I tried 14-year marriage ending. It's been about 4 months post-D-Day. It's been a wild up and down journey. I still have trouble understanding at all. I don't really know how we got to this point. I'm having a lot of what-ifs, but at this point, I'm just trying to accept everything. The bottom line is my wife was not capable of accepting responsibility in a meaningful enough way to help me heal. She would say she's sorry. Sometimes, she would tell me she loves me sometimes. She would respond with empathy sometimes, but she would tell me she already said she's sorry and I need to deal with it most of the time. She would tell me if I didn't love you, I wouldn't be putting up with all this most of the time. She would respond to my emotions with, "You need to snap out of it, or talk to your therapist if you want to move on." Most of the time. If I could point to one thing that I needed the last 4 months to heal, it would be consistent affirmation that she cares. I was trying to do things for her, but she was apathetic to me. My obsessions and anxiety got worse and worse the longer she gaslit me. Anyway, all that to say this. I powered for divorce a few weeks ago, and after a short pause because she begged for it, she told me she wanted a separation last week to work on things. I drew my line in the sand and said that a separation led to the affair, and there's no way that I will be able to mentally handle a separation. I feel a separation is for her to hide away until I just forget about everything, so she doesn't have to look at the pain she caused every day. I told her if she's going to push for the separation, I am going to go ahead with the divorce. Our first temporary orders hearing is on the 13th of October. I think I've done the pick-me dance for so long that she thinks this is a game of chicken that I will back away from and not follow through. She still doesn't even understand the damage she caused. My love and desperation I felt for the last 4 months has turned to anger and resentment. At this point, I'm positive that if she told me tomorrow she's sorry and doesn't want a separation, and will do everything I need, I would tell her to F off. It's over. Good riddance to the cheating narcissist. Now, it's time for those reactions we all love. We try to await, says it's a hard thing to accept, but she is not the same person that you married. My soon-to-be ex-wife of 25 years turned into a shell of her former self. You need to learn how to live alone. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. A life without her negativity is way better than living with a cheater. Next thought comes from Gamab. I felt the weight of the world fall off my shoulders when I filed. Finally, I was able to heal. You should feel the same. I wish you luck. The next thought's a thorough one from Apprehensive Byte 3153. Stay your course. Your soon-to-be ex-wife, from what I glean from various of your posts, seems to be a classic narcissist with perhaps sociopathic traits. At least so regarding her complete lack of empathy for the anguish she has brought upon you and continues to inflict with her insecure apologies. Whenever you feel yourself beginning to waver, remind yourself that she made 100, if not thousands of individual decisions that disregard you and your marriage in pursuit of her wants. Yes, wants, not needs, as every cheating spouse in the history of the world would prefer others to think. She had all her wants fulfilled and now suffers only the consequences she knew she was risking with each of those 100, if not thousands of decisions to pursue those wants. You, on the other hand, did not decide to take any such risks and have had to bear the full brunt of your anguish due only to her decisions. She doesn't love you, probably never has absolutely no empathy for the devastation she has made of your psyche by her decisions. Does not respect you, nor find you worthy of her affection. Read that again, memorize it, then repeat it to yourself every time you even think of wavering in your resolve to be free of her. As for the anger, I would recommend you just let that go. Except to the extent you may be angry with yourself or letting such a person get into your heart in the first place, she doesn't care about your anger any more than she cares about your anguish. File. Go 100% no contact, except as necessary to pursue the divorce. Then hold on to only that small bit of anger at yourself that will keep others, such as her, from getting into your life going forward. Then say no contact forever. It takes a while, but for me, at least, it has become much easier to be alone than it was to live with she who shall not be named. The stress of worrying about her approval of whatever I want to do from the time to time has lifted. And after what I now recognize as over 2 decades of low-grade depression dressed up as stoicism, I can breathe again. I'm not all the way there yet, but I'm beginning to realize more and more what there feels like, and it is very nice. Alright, last comment before moving on to the next story. Chulu Almighty says, you just took the toughest step. Hold your head high and be proud that you were able to walk away from someone who didn't return the love and effort you put in. It'll be odd adjusting to single life, but this is the time that you start to do stuff for you again for the first time in over a decade. They may not mean much from an internet stranger, but I'm proud of you. Alright. Next story. My husband cheated on me and said it was all a joke. My husband cheated on me a month ago and says it's all a joke. He was supposed to play pool with his friends that night, and something told me to ask him to turn his location on. Throughout the whole night, he was talking to me until he was at a weird location, then just silence. His phone was off and I could no longer track him. I decided to check his Snapchat, and there it was, multiple women he had been talking to, and he even made plans to see one that night. The last message was, "I'm here." My heart freaking broke. The worst part too is that day I told my friend the one thing he would never do is cheat on me, and bam. He acted like it was my fault and tried to say that he was only trying to make the girl look stupid and desperate, but it doesn't make sense. That night, I couldn't get a hold of him for 4 hours. It removed me off all social media, and he was messaging these girls on Snapchat. Much more sneaky can he get than to say it's a joke because his friends told him to do it, but they are single. I feel so betrayed and I hate him for it. I'm not sure what to do. I'm trying to stay, but I go crazy whenever he leaves, and I've been saying hateful stuff. I can't help it. I'm just so sad and keep replaying their messages over and over in my head. I'm not even sure if it's going to work. Sleeveless in Seattle starts off with the comments. The joke is on him expecting you to tolerate this. How old is this guy? Drop some of the divorce papers on his butt. New Classic 90 chimes in. It wasn't a joke, so now it's time to decide what you want to do about it. You can either have an honest conversation with him about your new open relationship because not going to stop, or you move on to someone better. Independent ad 5091 says okay. So apologies for masculine over undertones, but, bro, man the F up and walk out already. Due to totally gaslighting the F out of you. You said at the end, I don't think this is even gonna work. F. No, it's not. He's supposed to be a husband, not a boyfriend, not a fling. Right now, he's playing games, acting like a child. You're in a sea of emotions because of his BS. It will stop eventually when you decide to get out of the boat and come back to land. Hopefully, that makes sense. Best wishes. Sorry that this has happened to you, but can't be an awesome chance to learn and grow. Alright, one more story before we call it. Girlfriend cheated after 3.5 years of dating. My now ex-girlfriend, 30 female. Let's call her Lisa. Cheated on me, 28 male, while going on a birthday trip alone. We lived together for 2.5 years. I was supposed to go with her, but I had extreme fear of flying and had a panic attack before going on the plane, so opted not to go. I always had fear for flights, but this was the only time I ever got scared away from the plane. I flew many times this year in a first-year relationship because we were doing long distance. This was her birthday trip, so I offered to pay for a different road trip to make up for it, but she went on the flight alone after considering my options. I felt bad about letting her go alone, so I paid for a 4-star hotel for her entire stay and bought a very expensive necklace from Tiffany & Company for her actual birthday as a surprise gift. She met up with some of her old friends on the last days at the city she was hurrying and reconnected with a guy she met at a conference 7 years ago. Never talked to during the 7 years. She went out on a day with him the day after and made out in the park, telling him she's single, and the day after that, she went bar hopping with him and slept with him at his place. She put her phone on Do Not Disturb that night. During this whole time, she was living in the expensive hotel room I paid for. 6 foot tall, masculine, graduated from a top 30 school in the US, make roughly $200K worth in tech and loyals of the core. Don't mind me, just himself validation. The guy is much shorter, uglier, and less fit than I am, making less than half of my income and lives 2,000 miles away from us, yet she still chose that over me. After she came back home, she did not tell me and started to text and flirt with him for the next 2 weeks. Even on a dinner date I took her out to. I had a bad feeling about it and went through her phone and found out myself. After that, I broke up with her, but I can't get over why she would do such a thing. She was crying for one night, but the day after, she started yelling at me and did not seem to be remorseful for her actions. I feel useless and belittled and felt like our 3.5 years of relationship was all a lie. She has serial liar tendencies, and she claimed that she wasn't happy in our relationship, but she still seemed very happy with me, even in the weeks leading up to the trip, showing me lots of affection in both words and physical touches. We did have her ups and downs and problems to work on, but the general direction of the relationship was going up, not down, at least in my eyes. I feel extremely empty and sad and don't understand the cruelty of this outcome. I don't know if I'll ever love again. Hoping for advice on healing from this. I dated many girls before her, but I never loved anyone as much as I loved this girl. I thought she was the one. Now, I'm in the process of moving out of our apartment and move back to a city where my family and friends are. My tech sector job is remote now. And I feel defeated, abandoned, and a general lack of motivation in life. Even though I just got my high-paying dream job and has absolutely ruined my onboarding performance. I hate myself for not going on the flight with her. She wouldn't have met with her friends if I did. And I hate myself for ignoring red flags and started our relationship. She cheated out of prior relationships before starting with me. She lied to me on some other serious life matters a few times during our relationship. Even though she makes great money in healthcare, she's still irrational with money and does not really have a financial plan for the future, even at 30 years old. Okay. Time for some reactions. Angry little bastard starts us off. It's never easy and I'm sorry you have to experience this. Cheaters tend to gaslight their partners, so don't be surprised if she somehow guilts you in one way or another. It's sometimes not even intentional, but just a fear response. The best way to think about this is that you've been done a favor. You aren't married and hopefully you don't have any major commitments together. Owning a house, having kids, etc. It's still going to hurt like a mother effer, and your trust has been irreparably broken. My only suggestion is to be conscious of that and not let your next partner be on the receiving of any negative emotions that causes. Our last comment comes from Mr. Big Bowl 01. Hi. I'm so sorry this happened to you, but you must remember at least one thing. She yelled at you and said some hurtful stuff just to justify her cheating. She knows she did something terribly wrong and destroyed the relationship with you. She now just wants to make it less hurtful for herself. So she will tell a bunch of lies. She will tell them a lot of times, so she will believe it herself. It has really nothing to do with what you did. Blaming you is easier for her to accept the relationship is over. It will be hard, but you've got to move on. Just ignore her and plan your future. There are a lot of good women out there, you will find yours. Take care.